In April 1947, the deadliest tornado in Oklahoma's history tore through the small town of Woodward, reducing homes to rubble and families to memories. The storm killed over 100 people, but in the chaos, something else happened. Something darker. A little girl, 4-year-old Joan Gay Croft, vanished from a hospital basement. No one saw her taken. No one saw her again. And the question still lingers more than 75 years later. Was she buried under the rubble or stolen during the storm? Woodward was a sleepy farming town. On April 9, 1947, life was normal. School bells ringing, farmers tending fields, families preparing dinner. By nightfall, everything changed. A monster tornado, a mile wide, over 200 miles per hour, ripped through Woodward like a buzzsaw. Homes disintegrated, trees flew like missiles, entire families vanished beneath collapsing buildings. Joan Gay Croft, her mother Lorene, and her baby sister were sheltering at home when it hit. Lorene died instantly. Joan and her sister were found injured among the debris. The two girls were rushed to the local hospital. With electricity out and chaos everywhere, the basement served as a makeshift ER. Joan had a minor head injury. Her baby sister had a broken arm. According to hospital staff, Joan was frightened but calm. She kept asking, "Where's Mama?" Later that night, two men in khaki uniforms arrived. They weren't doctors, nurses, or Red Cross workers. No one recognized them. They told a nurse they were there to transfer Joan to another hospital. The nurse hesitated. The basement was full of injured children, but the men insisted. They carried Joan away. That was the last time anyone saw her. By morning, rescuers began to count the dead and the missing. Hundreds of people had died. Others were still being pulled from wreckage. When authorities reached the hospital, they were given a list of survivors, but Joan Gay Croft wasn't on it. The staff insisted. She had been taken by official-looking men. No one had stopped them. Her family and neighbors frantically searched, but there was no body, no blood, no trace. It was as if Joan had vanished into the wind. At first, officials believed Joan had died and been buried in a mass grave. Over 100 bodies had been too badly mangled to identify. But her uncle, Clarence Croft, refused to believe that. He had seen her alive after the tornado. He had held her hand. And then, she was gone. Strangely, no medical record showed that Joan was ever transferred to another hospital, and none of the dozens of nearby hospitals reported receiving a child matching her description. More disturbingly, no one ever identified the two men who took her. In the days after the disaster, the FBI quietly opened a file. They interviewed doctors, nurses, volunteers, and emergency responders. No one knew who the men in khaki were. Some believed they were imposters, predators using the chaos to kidnap a child. Others suspected they were military or civil defense workers operating under orders. But no military unit ever came forward. The trail went cold. For decades, the case of Joan Gay Croft faded into obscurity, a tragic footnote in the story of a massive natural disaster. That changed in 1999. A local newspaper in Oklahoma published a story revisiting the tornado on its 52nd anniversary. In the article, they mentioned Joan's mysterious disappearance. That's when a chilling letter arrived. A woman, whose name was never publicly released, wrote to the paper, claiming she believed she was Joan. She said she'd been adopted by a family in another state shortly after the storm. She had always felt out of place, as if she didn't belong. She remembered a hospital basement, a loud noise, being taken by men in uniform. DNA testing was proposed, but the woman backed out. She disappeared again. Was it a hoax? A delusion? Or had Joan finally come forward? In the early 2000s, a bizarre theory surfaced, one that sounds like pure fiction. A group of conspiracy theorists proposed that Joan may have been taken by government agents. Their claim? She had been adopted as part of an experimental intelligence program, like MK Ultra. It sounds insane, except for one thing. Declassified CIA documents do prove that during the 1950s and 60s, the agency recruited children for psychological testing under secret names. One of the code names? Project Artichoke, which began in 1947. It's pure speculation, but the timing fits. And it makes one wonder, could Joan have been swept into something far more terrifying than anyone imagined? For Joan's surviving family, the mystery never healed. Her cousin Margie Croft later said, "It's the not knowing. That's what's haunted us. Not whether she's alive or dead, but what happened." In 2007, on the 60th anniversary of the tornado, a memorial plaque was placed in Woodward's town square. It listed the names of the storm's 100-plus victims. At the bottom, in slightly smaller letters, it read, "In memory of Joan Gay Croft, not lost in the storm, but lost to the storm." She wasn't the only child lost in a disaster that day, but she may be the only one who was taken. In a time before DNA, CCTV, and smartphones, children could vanish without a trace, even from the safest places, even from hospital basements. Joan Gay Croft was only 4 years old when she disappeared, and the truth? It's still out there, somewhere, buried beneath rubble, rumors, and silence.